what things are important to the AI when they collect your data. And so if they have a profile, they probably have a very large list of things about you that maybe you don't even realize. And this is just a very small subset. So this data collection here would be called a subset because it's just small. The truth is that this is probably, almost infinite. It's always learning about you. So what do you think the AI knows about you?
Um, it, it's a new technique and very smart.
Yeah, I mean, is it really new though? In the sense that an AI essentially is an algorithm. An algorithm is just a very complicated mathematical formula. It's an equation, and it's designed to calculate who you are, what you're doing, and then to come up with some sort of prediction or channel or tube to sort of keep you engaged in the product or the software or the AI itself. And so it does things to attract your attention. That's why you're always on the phone, because it knows how to stimulate your dopamine and your serotonin, which are the hormones in your mind that make you feel good or make you feel happy. And it also knows how to monitor or change the data so that your dopamine or serotonin levels, it may not just be about being happy. You may see information that is upsetting, or you're curious about because it is something that you maybe are against or don't like. But that's also engagement. That's still keeping you in front of the phone and in front of the algorithm. So it's very tricky. It knows all these different things. So what do you think it knows about you based on your reading and browsing history? It knows the basics. It knows your age. It knows you're male. It knows you're a student. Those things it knows. What do you think it knows maybe deeper based on your habits?
Um, mm, maybe uh, um, I change some of my habits.
Okay. Give me an example of a habit that you changed recently.
Uh, you oh one of my habit has changed is when I use phone. Um, I like to uh and check the message by my hands, but now the phones always has AI. You just um uh, um say like Siri, and it
Mm,
knows what do you
mm.
want to do.
Okay. So in this case, you like using voice active commands. And so it seems like sort of a very sort of small or minor habit or small issue. But in order for the AI to understand that you like to use voice commands instead of pushing buttons or whatever else, that means now it has to track the voice command. And so that means it has to have speech recognition. It has to be able to recognize your speech in Chinese and so forth. Do you ever use voice activation in English?
Uh, no.
Ah, that would be an experiment you should try. You should try using voice activation in English and see how it changes the data or the information, because part of your profile is all created in Chinese, and so it also sort of knows your habits in Chinese and so forth. And so if you're willing to use voice activation by saying Alexa or Siri or whoever it is, Baidu, you probably have to tell it you're going to speak English. The algorithm will probably not be able to sort of complete its function in the way that normally does because you're giving it new information about you only because you changed the language. And so you're changing the subset in that case. And that means the algorithm would have to create an entirely new subset related to you in English. It already knows. It already knows because if your phone is on and you're having class with me, it is listening. Whenever you sign up for a new app, new application, new maybe social media site or whatever else, you always have to agree, to the content and so forth. And when you said agree, most people don't read the agreement, and so the agreement says, "Hey, we can turn on the phone, we can listen, we can look at your pictures, we can look at your contact, and so we can use all that data to make our applications work better for you. But actually, it's to make it work better for them." And so if you start using English voice commands, that's going to have to create it or developed or extend a whole new subset of Michael in English. And so that means that data will be different. And so I did something similar when I was in China. I used to practice my Chinese pronunciation with the text to speech in Baidu. And most of the time, if it couldn't recognize what I'm saying, I'd have to keep repeating the word until it finally would recognize which was the right, pronunciation. And so the algorithm for me began to create a subset of me trying to use things in Chinese. And so then it creates a whole kinds of situation. So voice activation is actually probably the next level of data collection related to looking at you. That'll be the next thing. So we have the technology of having the cameras in the home or outside. We can have control over that. And so now the algorithm, the computer itself is trying to understand the systems. Basically, what is it seeing? What is it hearing? What input is being put in? And so that goes into the calculation. When it comes to the mathematics of algorithms, obviously it's operating in multiple levels, and so it continues to increase and to get broader in its structure or understanding of you. Okay, so you like voice activation. What else about your browsing habits do you think the algorithm knows about you?
Um, mm, um,
So when you get up in the morning after sleeping with your phone in your hand or sleeping with a phone on your face, you wake up. Oh, I got something. What's the first thing that you see? Is it the messages from WeChat or is it the messages from something else? So like every day, usually if I get up, the first thing I look at, of course, is messages to find out what's happening with my students in the school or whatever else. So the first thing I look at is, do I have any messages from WeChat? And so then that takes me down the whole of WeChat for a little bit, catching up on messages and so forth. Then I might take a look at my messages from Outlook or something else, and then I go down the hole of looking at all these messages. So the first few minutes when I wake up with the phone, it knows sort of what I'm going to do. And so it makes sure that I can see that or identify that. And then occasionally they'll slip in advertising or commercial because they know that's where I'm going to be based on my habits. So what's the first thing that you look at when you get up in the morning?
um, WeChat messages.
Okay. So for you, it's still about WeChat and social media. And so, who are you looking messages for or from?
My friends.
Oh, back to your friends. Okay. So, they're doing the same thing. They're also waking up looking at messages. And so everybody's waking up in the morning going, oh, God, another day. Oh, we have to go to school or do homework and complain to each other. And then everybody feels sort of the same way, right? Okay. So you look at WeChat, social messages. How many friends are you communicating with normally, would you say?
Uh, 3 to 4.
Okay. So in this case, the profile knows that you have 3 to 4 sort of besties or best friends or people that you talk to on a regular basis. Okay. So are you reading the messages? Are you responding or just sort of reading and laughing? Or are you the person that's also generating the other messages? Usually in a group of 3 or 4 people, there's probably one person who is maybe not necessarily the leader, but definitely probably pushes more information. Are you that person or is it one of your friends?
Oh, it is my friends, not me.
Okay. So what do you do? What do you contribute to the conversation? Do you contribute or do you just read?
Uh, Sometimes read, sometimes tricky.
Okay. Um, do you send voice messages or text or stickers, gifs, or memes, images?
Uh, I still the message the most.
Okay, so you do send some small message in Chinese. All right, and so so we would say that you are an active participant, but more so in reading. You're not the leader of your little group here, in the sense that you're not the person that's sort of stimulating or generating the conversation. Um, what is the nature of the conversation? Is it humorous? Is it serious? Is it emotional? Is it about what you have to do today? How would you describe the general nature of the morning conversation of your 3 to 4 friends? What is the topic? Is it the same or does it change all the time?
I think it is changed all the time.
Okay, so if it's changing all the time, it still probably has, according to the algorithm, it probably still has some sort of scope or um, scheme or nature related to the topic. And so your three
Mm,
or four friends, are you talking about school? Are you talking about girls? Are you talking about sports? If the topics change quite often, is it about the news? Is it about life? Would you say it's personal, not personal?
Um, both we talk, both we talk to
Mhm.
even personal things.
Mhm. Would you say that the conversation is deeply personal or just sort of superficial, just kind of, just light?
Both, both I think.
Okay. So you're saying that basically the topics vary, and the nature of the topics could be personal or general.
Yeah.
So you can see that each one of these points requires other subsets. So the calculation has to keep adding in this part of the equation, and so they can really understand your profile. Okay, you check the messages, you look at your friends, you see what the topic is today, maybe you make a comment. After you look at that, do you send links to each other? Do you send things where you have to click and go someplace else from the conversation?
Link. Nope.
Okay. Because some people will share stories, some people will share links, and so after the conversation, you click and you go to another place.
Maybe. Maybe they will send a link about
Okay.
uh um some, some food information.
Okay. Some food information. So
Mhm.
like a new restaurant or a new food or somebody trying some kind of new food. What do you mean food information? Like how to cook?
Um, which uh which cafe has the best
Okay.
food?
That's important because now basically you're talking about location review or recommendation. And so now, from waking up, looking at the conversation, blah, blah, oh, here's a link. Oh, here's a review for a new cafe. And then probably people say, oh, let's agree. Let's try that, not try that, or let's try it sometime or like it. And so this splits off into all these other little pieces of what could happen. And so the data then has to sort of try to hold on to engagement, because you might just put the phone down and say, oh, well, let's
Yes.
go to that cafe. And so in order to do that, what it does is it offers you the review of the cafe or the pictures, whatever else, and then it adds more information. So you keep going farther down and keep on the phone instead of going to the cafe. So the algorithm is very smart. So if you get a review for a cafe, do you go to that cafe later or in the future?
In the future.
Okay. So it is a way for you to make decisions based on the information. And so now you have sort of two different things happening. You have a embodied intelligence and a disembodied intelligence. And so together, you guys are working together with your friends, 3 or 4 people. And so now 3 or 4 people are sort of in the same tunnel or same part of the data collection or algorithm in their conversation to make a decision outside of the internet to go to another location. The only problem is that when you guys go to the coffee shop, do you take your phone? Of course,
Mm, yeah.
because you're going to pay for it. You're going to use WeChat Pay. So now it's going to collect. It's going to collect information of what money you spend. It's going to collect global positioning. It's going to use its GPS to find out where you went to that cafe. They're going to sort of search for data in the immediate area again to keep you engaged into the algorithm and decide whether or not you'll go back to that place or offer other selection. And so again, now it's collecting consumer data. How long did you go? What did you spend? What did you buy? Whatever else. And so this just keeps going on and on and on and on. It just keeps adding and adding more information about you and your friends, so it can determine what information to give you or share with you or understand. And so this particular subset that we looked at, just obviously we have just made a very sort of general example of a subset of data that possibly you are generating or being collected for who you are, how the algorithm sees you. And so that subset of data, basically, we have in real life and we have the virtual world. And so there's a bit of a split because you can make any sort of decision outside of the information algorithm, whether to go to the coffee shop, not go to the coffee shop, not to read the messages, whatever else. So there's still opportunity for change or adaptation in real life. And so how we see you in real life, do you think is the same way that the algorithm or AI sees you in the virtual world? Do you think that the profile or the image is the same online?
Mm,
I'd say no. So
mm,
that's the argument that we have here oftentimes when we're talking about privacy related to what the algorithm can collect from you. And the reason why is that your real life persona or your real life personality is not exactly the same as your virtual online, because this is generated by collection of data through a series of subsets related to your phone, to your GPS, to what you read, and so forth. And yes, it can be very detailed. It probably knows things about you that you are not aware of. And that's why it knows how to sort of communicate with you about certain things to keep you engaged and activated. On the other hand, there are probably some things that you have not shared with the virtual reality yet. Maybe something very private, maybe some habit of yours that it's not aware of. And so the image between the real life Michael and the virtual world Michael is still slightly different. Even though there might be aspects to your virtual self that are unknown to you, and in some ways it has more detail or more information to understand who you are, about what you like, what you do, and so forth. And this will continue to develop. The longer that you use it, the more sort of detailed features it will create about you online or in the virtual world based on all the data subsets. Meanwhile, you yourself are changing. You're going from being a boy to a teenager to a man. And so in real life, this is also changing. You are also sort of developing other features or other aspects about your character that will allow you to be a young adult or whatever it is. And I said to you, one of the things that you could do to sort of not so much confuse the algorithm, but basically to sort of join these two images is try using your voice activation in English, because it knows that you do some English because obviously you get homework from me in English and so forth. But what it doesn't know is that you can speak English in voice activation. And so that'll change some details about how this image is shaped. Okay. So very complex and absolutely fascinating to me, because when it comes to teaching, we're going to have to learn how to engage with the algorithm in a way that helps students to learn, either in a virtual setting or a data collection that allows us to look at what you do. For myself, as your teacher, as an examiner, that's also what I'm doing. I'm collecting data from you. I'm collecting information from you about your level of English, and then making adjustments as to what is the issue, what is weak, what is strong, what is good. And so it's the same thing. I'm also doing a set of calculations, but it's embodied here in my mind from my experience as a teacher and as an examiner. Until we get to the point where we can put this into a computer or a program, it's going to be very hard to sort of compete with that, because it has an element of experience that the algorithm does not have. The algorithm has other experiences. So if we work together, then it can be beneficial. But if we fight each other, then we're sort of fighting a losing battle. And so when teachers are afraid of technology with students or in the classroom, etc., or are unwilling to adapt to it or use it, then they're sort of missing out on a big part of the world of the students, because the students are there in virtual reality. The students are there in their data collection. The students are there on their phone. And so we have to use the technology to make that connection, because it's not going away anytime soon. And so that can be useful. So what I'm saying to you is that you can add to this experience. You can add to this feature by using English for your voice activation. See what happens. Make an experiment. See if it can recognize your voice in English. See if it can recognize your pronunciation in English. If you're using voice recognition from Baidu or from your phone, I don't know who makes your phone, whether it's Huawei or whatever it is, it may be confused because it won't know what to do. Also because of your pronunciation or what you're saying to it. And so it might take a little bit of effort or experimentation to try it. And so it could be fun. It could be something silly, because you might get some responses that would be unusual for the algorithm, because it doesn't know how to respond to your voice activation in English. And so you may have some unusual results. And I think it's important to always sort of use different adaptions or different approaches to the algorithm, so that you can help it and it can help you, but also you should add an element of novelty or something different, so it has other aspects of your personality or your features that can become more developed in areas that normally you don't develop. And so that way you can get more information or better information. So that's my suggestion.